Hello, gorgeous souls. This is Quinn Curtis, and you are listening to the Joyful Living podcast and or watching. And so we're so excited that you're joining us today. We have a really special guest. It's one of my dearest soul sisters, Kelly Anderson, and she is quite an amazing person. So every time we have her on the show, this has become an annual tradition of ours to talk about this. This is always one of our most popular episodes, and I really think it's because of just the kind of character that Kelly has, and just what an inspiring and soulful person she is. So Kelly, thank you so much for bringing your soul and your genius and your inspiration to this podcast. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be with you.
Aw, thanks. Yeah, this is our third or fourth year now doing this, right? So it's such a cool tradition. We're going to be talking about the tradition of choosing a word intention for the year. And actually on the day that we're recording this, and I think I'll just be publishing it today as well, is January 2nd. So 2019 just barely began. It's this tiny, fresh, brand new little year, and there's so much potential inside of it. And this tradition has singularly been one of the most profound supports in my life ever. And I have Kelly to thank for bringing it into my life. So it was probably even 8 to 10 years ago, I think, that you challenged me first with picking a word for the year. And I know it wasn't quite necessarily a new tradition to you. So do you want to talk about a little bit of how you stumbled into this practice and what it's meant for you over time?
Well, it's funny because I used to think that it was something that one of our friends and mentors, Danielle Laporte, created. But now it's just like a global thing. Like I'm amazed when I see, I saw an Inc. article on Word of the Year. I've seen, these companies pop up where you can create your intention bracelet. Like it's really just become like this phenomenon. So I don't know who to attribute who created it, but I learned from Danielle Laporte, and then I started, 10 some years ago. And then I've just been sharing it with people in my world. And I think that it's so fun because it's become like this conversation piece. When you meet people, if they aren't doing it, they can start doing it. But a lot of times I'm finding that when people are, on board with it already. So it's just so much fun. I love it.
And I love that it has such a low barrier of entry, but it's such a profound, powerful, life-changing practice. So it's fun always that there's new people joining in on this tradition every year, and they can start with just any word that they choose, right? And it can really change the trajectory of their life. So cool. I've never seen any practice that's that simple that can have such a big impact.
Yeah, and it just spans all belief systems. It's beautiful.
Yes. I love that too. All faith and yeah. So let's talk through our words from last year, and we would love to hear in the comments and in the discussion. You can join us in the Soulful Business and Branding Facebook group, where we want to hear what you learned from your word last year if you did this practice, or what you're intending for this coming year. This is just a great opportunity for us to reflect. So Kelly, tell us a little bit about your word that you chose last year for 2018. Okay. And I'm really so excited to talk about this with you because your word brought some excitement into your world.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is the funny thing is that it's an ironic word for me. So I picked the word move back in December 2017, and I was thinking of move my body, move this, move in the direction of my dreams, all of that. And then I didn't even think about it, but I was living at a friend's house at the time while their family was in Europe. We were basically just in between homes. And then we moved into a hotel for 9 weeks, and then we moved into our home. And so actual moving physically was all part of it, but it was even on my top of my mind at the time when I chose this cosmic joke, right? And so obviously we did a lot of moving in 2018. And then as we were becoming more settled, I just kind of like forgot the word and went on with my life. And I didn't do like a bracelet or anything because I thought it'd be kind of weird to have a bracelet that said move on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like really yummy. I could have done like momentum or something. I like cemented word like on an article of clothing or a poster or anything. And I liked it. It literally escaped my memory, but I had planted that seed. And so the intention of it was still, harvesting and growing all that. And about a month or two ago, there was some other things that happened where it became very apparent that we are not going to be living in our current brand new house for very long. And so we were like, this is hilarious. It's the year of move. And we thought we were going to like end our nomadic lifestyle after 7 years of being crazy people all over the globe. And then we're like, yay, we're going to plant our roots and this is going to be our home. And then the year of move proved otherwise. We are actually preparing to put our house on the market, make some other changes in our life. And so it's just hilarious. Well, the year of move had a major impact. And I'm grateful because there's lessons to be had. And one of the things about life in general is that progress is everything, right? And you can grow when you're willing to be uncomfortable. And that's what move requires. And so there's some thoughts on it. I just think it's funny that the move became such a life lesson, so.
Wow. I'd love for you to just emphasize, because you just touched on such a powerful point, but like what you were saying about you have to remain, was it flexible, or what were you saying about to be able to move?
Uncomfortable, but yeah, flexible. I mean, like, I just think that if you really want progress, you can't, the roots are important of life, but I don't know, there's something about it that we necessarily need to root in like yet. And so movement is critical for progress, so.
When if you think about it, movement is life, right? Like when things stop moving, when energy stops flowing, that is the definition of death.
Yeah. So I guess I'm not dying yet.
You're not dying, so that's a great sign. Oh, so powerful. And, it's always funny. I know we kind of have commented on this in past years as well, but just how really you can choose a word and it seems to always teach you exactly what you weren't expecting.
Yeah. 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 And just a little background on the house thing, just if people don't know my story. So we were, as I mentioned before, we were nomads for like 7 years. And then this house represented like this total change. So we designed it, we built it, we decorated it. I mean, it was like our house, right? Yeah. And so I think it's just so funny because throughout the whole process, I was just learning lessons in creation. And I thought like that was really the critical piece. And I wasn't so attached to it, obviously, but I thought, well, it represented like that we would plant, that we would do this, but it just ended up being an awesome financial investment. So we're like, okay, we'll take that. So,
yeah.
And so we're just open, to possibilities. And I think that's the trick with move or momentum is that you're like, wow, this is great. And what else is possible? I think that's part of momentum. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I was just getting chills as I was feeling into that. Like, yeah, I think that's huge for it.
So tell me about your word and what you felt like your ahas were from it.
Yeah, here again, my word taught me totally different lessons than I expected. So my word was Shri, which is a Sanskrit word for, it's basically a Sanskrit word for abundance, but it's like the abundance of life itself, right? So it's like the abundance that makes the flowers bloom and the abundance that makes the crops grow and be able to be harvested. And so I just thought this was going to call in some major abundance. Also, the word Shri is usually associated with the goddess, the Hindu goddess Lakshmi, who's the goddess of abundance. Well, that's one of her attributes. And so I had been thinking, like, this is just this, like, I'm going to really connect with the divine this year. And I'm going to really be open to receiving so much abundance. Because in my mind, that had been how I thought it was going to come about. But it was really fascinating. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's not true, but I just learned this whole other different aspect of it, because really this year was actually so much of a winter for me with my connection with the divine, where even like it was kind of a dark night of the soul for a lot of the year. And it was frustrating for me most of the year. And so I thought this was supposed to be this great divine connection year. What's happening? And every time I would check in on it and pray about it and ponder about it, it was like, this is a season to take your roots deeper. It's a winter so that you're going to take your roots deeper. Right. And so I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and just really learning, how does this all operate? And so one of the interesting parts about this concept of Shri that I learned is just kind of more of my own capacity to be the divine force of abundance in my life, not replacing the divine, but really working in partnership more, right, with those divine creative gifts, right? So I just kind of saw this capacity where like in the beginning of the year, I had thought it was all about getting the sunshine to come and shine on my crops and what I was building, what I was doing, and having that relationship with the divine work so that could happen. And what I ended up finding more of was the sunshine within my own soul. That tapping in that deep brought that within my own heart, that instead of me continuing to give that power away and hope that this next opportunity or this influencer or this person that supposedly could change my world or could make a big difference, instead of looking for that sunshine outside of myself, I found it deep within. And so then it brought out this really powerful lesson of learning to bring my own sunshine to whatever I wanted to create. And so it was an interesting situation where I feel like lots of the times, and you've known me for a while, so I'm sure you've seen this, but lots of the times I think my energy can be a little bit scattered, like I'm doing 20 different things at once sometimes. And I was realizing, especially towards the end of the year with this, was just pondering this whole lesson of the year of just how much of that energy was still throwing tons of spaghetti noodles on the ceiling to see what would stick, instead of now where I'm feeling like I ended 2018, which was, I'm bringing my attention and my energy and my focus to these singular few things. And when I do that, then it's like I am like my sunshine for that garden, and I am making sure it's getting the nourishment that it can grow. So it's really profound. I'd love to hear your thoughts, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, as soon as you started going, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to listen to this podcast. So do you know Rob Bell?
No.
His podcast? Okay, so Rob Bell is an amazing podcast dude. I don't know what you call him.
Podcast host, maybe?
Yeah.
Podcaster.
So he has this one from December 21st, and it's called, it's like basically hope in the darkness of winter. And it's with a guest named Alexander Shaya, and they talk about how in winter it helps to harvest the creativity, like what you were saying. Wow. And so what people used to do is they used to decorate the trees, like for the winter solstice, with the light because of the contrast. And so like this podcast was really eye-opening for me, because a lot of people don't like the winter, but if we don't have the winter, we can't appreciate, right? The other times. So I think that what you've found is really true. However, the reason why you have the sunshine is because of God and your connection. So that's
Right.
where the true source of it is. So even though, you're able to find it through yourself, it came through, and,
Yeah, and I'd probably argue that it wasn't necessarily coming from, like, I've always tried to get it from above energy, maybe, and this was like divine through my root system,
yes.
you know?
Well, it's your seed, right? Your
Right.
seed is, I mean, we cannot separate ourselves, right? Like
Right.
we
Right.
are divine. So I think that that's really cool awareness, and you'll like that. And I think other people, who maybe feel a little bit disconnect from divine will appreciate this message that, that there has to be some darkness so that we gravitate to light. Like
Yes.
we yearn for it, we seek for it, we
Mhm.
call it forth, right? Because if it's always sunny, then it, we don't see the difference,
Mhm.
and it's interesting because I'm going to Hawaii, excuse me, Hawaii tomorrow, and I have this relationship with Hawaii that it's like a sister to me.
Mhm.
I mean, she has a spirit energy and maybe it's Mother Earth energy, I don't know, but it literally is like a soul connection for me with Hawaii. And as I was thinking about this last night, I started to get emotional, like even crying how much I love Hawaii and miss Hawaii. And we lived there a few years ago, and I have been dampering, like closing the door of my love for Hawaii because it's not possible to have it because I'm not there, right?
Mhm.
And so as I started to kind of open the door last night and be like, oh, I'm going back. It's been a few years. Like my heart was starting to just like get giddy and excited. And I realized that I think we do that a lot in our life. Like what you were saying, is like sometimes if we can't have that connection, then we just close it, like we just close
Yeah.
the door or whatever. And so as we start to open it little by little, our heart starts to sing and we start to feel like that love and that joy. And
Mhm.
it'll be fun to see what happens in this new year as you become aware of that and
Yeah.
how it continues to flow. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of these intentions, like we plant the seeds, but then they don't necessarily just take root and bloom that year, right?
No.
Like we're planting a garden for our life and our eternity,
Mhm.
and when you look back on the previous year's intentions and efforts, and we've put in the effort, and so it's not like over. It's not like, oh, that was the year of gratitude, whatever.
I'm done now.
It's like, no, like we did the work, therefore we get to continue to enjoy that yumminess. And so even though I kind of shelved the Hawaii connection, it's still there. Like it's still within me and I can turn to it when I want to, and when I when I desire, more of that in my life. And it's the same with any other intention, I think. And I
Yeah.
mean, some of my most fondest years were like 5, 6 years ago. And I'm like, I still love creation, and
Yeah.
it's not over. It's not over because that year, calendar changed,
Yeah.
so.
I totally agree. And then there was one other key lesson that I wanted to just share, and just feeling complete with the year. I mean, this is therapeutic as well. But with the other piece that Shri really taught me is I had thought that this, I don't know, I mean, I guess my heart knew differently, but my brain was still kind of following along with like, we're going to have Shri if our bank account number increases significantly,
Oh
right?
yeah. Uh-huh.
And of course, that actually did happen. We had
Yeah.
probably our biggest year in business ever. Like I think we even doubled the past year or something.
Nice.
So it was a really big year. But what I ended up finding towards like the third quarter or so, when my coach just asked me, what do you really want, Quinn? And I just checked in with my heart. And what came right out of my lips was, I want to be dripping in gratitude.
Mm.
Like I just felt this call in my soul that is what happiness looks like, where you are just soaked in gratitude.
And that's abundance right there.
It is abundance. And that's what I learned. Abundance is not in the stuff or in the numbers. Who cares about that? There are plenty of people who have everything but are not grateful. And there are plenty of people who have very little who are so grateful, and all sorts in between. So I just feel like regardless of what financial pieces are coming or going, it's just helped me to be more anchored than in always feeling a little bit turbulent about, oh, are the numbers high? Are they good? Is business good? Or is it raw? And instead being just like, there were times this past year where it just became even more natural to me, which felt like such a gift. Like, I don't know where it came from outside of just the divine, like, gifting it, right? Of just driving home from a long day of working and sitting in my driveway, just almost overwhelmed to the point of just sobbing with tears of just, there are 6 humans inside that little house that I love so much and I get to spend my life with. And they can walk and we can breathe and I can see and I can use my hands. Like, it was just like all of these little things where I just redefined abundance for me. It redefined the whole piece. So I'm so grateful. I mean, the year taught me so much, as our years often do, if we're showing up for the lesson.
Well, and I love that you expanded, what abundance is, because I've been doing this practice with essential oils of doing aroma touch with people lately. And at the beginning of the aroma touch, I asked them to release something. And then at the end, I asked them to receive something. And it's just so fun. And then the very last oil of the process is wild orange, which is abundance. Mm-hmm. And so then I just tag on, well, whatever you receive, now receive it abundantly. And I use the wild orange. And I just love that practice of like, whatever we choose, like abundantly is the tag, like I receive joy abundantly. I receive peace abundantly, So abundantly can be the amplifier or the extender or the
magnifier. Yeah,
it's beautiful. So like you can keep using that throughout the rest of your life and forever, because it's just, well, we don't want just a little bit, we want a little, a lot of it. And you used some example of, just the difference. And I can't remember how you said it exactly, but it's almost like you said something dripping, right? Like that.
Yes, like soaking in it. Yeah.
Dripping, like flooding, like those kind of feelings when I'm connecting to abundance. And like, it for me, it's like a waterfall. It's like I'm standing in the river of abundance, like take what part is mine. I pass the rest down. And I think, that feeling of like receive and give, and, it's just like flowing, and like, that's true abundance. And I think that you've been on that journey for a while. And now that you have not only children, but you have employees and you have, a team, and it's like, it's not enough for yourself, right? It's to share and to give and to increase. And so all of those lessons are coming through for sure,
Yeah, it's funny you would bring up the team, because one of the pieces that came as I did create my branding and marketing agency this year was this really funny practice that I can't even remember exactly how it started or sparked. But with paydays, we use Slack to communicate as a team, and I have 6 employees. And so with Slack, whenever there's a payday every other week, instead of me just being like, hey, your checks have been mailed and da-da-da-da-da, or having my assistant do that, I started using it as an opportunity for gratitude. So it's like every 2 weeks I was just like, thank you so much for all the work you've done for the past 2 weeks. Thank you for showing up wholeheartedly for our clients and our customers. Thank you for bringing your heart and your love to this work. It matters and it means so much. By the way, your checks have been sent, But it was like a really powerful practice that I feel like is a big reason why the agency did grow to the extent it did. Because with any exchange of money back to my employees, it was an exchange of gratitude, right?
Yeah. Appreciation is huge. It's
Yeah.
also really humbling because we went through a process where we were, when we were building our house, where we were doing big checks, like bigger checks than we ever paid people before. And it was cool to be like, hey, a roofer, here's, $30,000. Like we're like signing over these big checks. And I felt so grateful that it was available to me, that I could be the steward of that.
Yeah.
That it was flowing through, the bank account from, all these different sources, and that I could bless these other people's lives. And I'm sure you felt that too, because it's really humbling to be able to make a massive impact in someone else's life, like giving them a job, giving them Christmas, giving them, a family vacation, like giving them mortgage, and so when you're in that place of giving and receiving, it does something to you. It changes you, and it makes you feel like just humbled, sure that you're experiencing that as well.
Well, and I love what you're describing too, because isn't it so humbling as you're paying those checks, that you're like, I'm so grateful and humbled for this roofer. Like, I can't build this roof.
No.
Like, this is such a gift that this amazing person can come and build a roof for me. I can do a lot of things, but I can't do that,
Well, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why I'm not afraid of building again or doing a process again of creation, because we enjoyed so much of that, of seeing people's gifts. And we're like, wow, like I want to keep this moving forward, and there's that move word again. Like it's like when it's that pay it forward kind of feel, is that once you stop moving, then your ability to bless other people stops too,
Right. Which is kind of like how the difference between like the abundance that you're describing with the waterfall, and just I'll keep what's mine and the rest is flowing on past into everybody else who needs it, versus hoarding, where we're like, I'm going to create a dam and just hang on to it just in case, because who knows when this waterfall is going to stop.
That's pretty
powerful.
Cool.
So what is 2019 holding for you? What are you excited for with that?
Oh my goodness. I'm actually really excited about 2019. So the word, it's funny because last year my practice was pray, ask for the word, and I like woke up and received it. Like it was a quick process. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought, oh, I'll try that again. But this time it was just like a thought process and journaling. And the first word that came to me was holy. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. And I thought like, oh, that is like maybe a jumping off point, Mm-hmm. But I wanted a little bit more joy in it. And so then I immediately felt praise. And praise came forward. And like, at first I was like, oh, I never even considered that one before. And then it just started to like bloom over a few days. Yeah. And then as I thought about it and studied about it, and I found there's so much available for praise. There's all these praise and worship songs, and there's all these like people who, do a regular practice of praise that I was really drawn to it. And then like, that's a word I would put on a bracelet. That's a word I would even frame that word. I would put it on a necklace. I feel like praise is more of a heart word, than move, for example. And so it started to become really delicious to me. And as I was connecting with some friends of mine, one of which is a preacher, I said, hey, what's your feeling on this word? And he gave me some little nuggets. And he said one of the words that, or phrases that he liked around it was, praise is what I do. And I'm like, yes, like that is a beautiful affirmation. And so I made a little graphic of praise is what I do. And it just became like this, I am, like this strong, like this declaration Like, this
Yeah.
is what I do. Like, and I love how praise is an umbrella for so many other words like gratitude, humility, abundance, miracle, creation. Like, it goes on and on and on. You can praise all the good, all the beauty, all the joy, right? And so for me, praise is such a beautiful word of growth and a promise. So I'm super excited about it. And
So connected to gratitude, right? Like, how
yeah,
can
it's
you
just
not
all of
praise
that. And
that?
like just
Oh.
recognizing that it's not, and also not just praising God and all of the creation process and all that, but also praising my family and praising my husband and praising my kids and praising my friends and, like, you know, getting it into my lifestyle to be more complimentary and more, you know, kind of what you were saying with the paychecks, like really giving genuine, sincere, you know, praise is a beautiful practice. And so I think I'm going to really enjoy that reminder this year.
So powerful.
Thank
My
you.
goodness. So then what kind of daily practice are you wanting to bring into this? Or
Well, I think that that's going to be evolving, but like I've done gratitude journals before. And so I think, you know, as I do my journaling, it'll be like a praise journal, right? Like praising the, you know, the source of all this beauty in life. And also there's a Casting Crowns song that has a line that says praising in the storms. And I think a lot of us have seen that when we praise in the challenges or in the in the opposition, like that's when things lift, you know? And so that's when things start to churn. And there's a practice that I do sometimes with people when they're stuck, or even, you know, for myself, where take a piece of paper and you write a line down the middle, and on the left you put your pains, and then on the right you put your gains. And so as you start to write down all the challenging things that you're dealing with, and then one by one shifting it into a gain, that's a praise process. You know, like the process of like, okay, my son is struggling with this. The gratitude of it is that now we have this relationship where we can be open and honest about it, and it has bonded us, you know, like that's a gain from it. Or, you know, okay, my bank account's a little tight. Well, now I get to seek and ask for help. That's a gain, right? So you can just start going through all of those things. So I think it'll just unfold itself, but I am definitely excited. I've been searching scriptures on the word. I've been just like having fun learning about it and asking friends of other faith denominations, like, how do you praise? Like, what is your practice? And so I think it's a very bonding word, you know, uniting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so gorgeous.
Thank you.
Oh, chills. So, so my word was so so unexpected, because I've had pretty gorgeous words. Like you're saying with the bracelet, actually, that was so a concern of mine as well. Like, if we're going to have a word, let's have it be a beautiful word that looks good on jewelry, right? So, so yeah, my past few words, like there was joy, there was Shakti, there was a gratitude. I mean, there's been all sorts of words, right? So then this year, the word that I just kept struggling to find one, and nothing quite felt right. Then when I just was asking, you know, what is it that I'm really craving, heart and soul? And the word that just sung to me was wellness. And at first glance, I was like, ugh, wellness. What a gross word. That is so overused. I'm so tired of that word. It's white noise, you know? But then as I really started to sink into the word even more, like this whole gorgeous, like depth started to come in of it being wellness. Of like beingness of having a well of life, or having a well of abundance, having a well to draw from. And my husband had just been telling me about just how, older cultures, I don't know if we could quite call them ancient, but older cultures, and even ancient cultures, that they really planned their city around the well, right? The well was that water of life, right? So they were, everybody was surrounding that well. It was central. And without the well, without protecting and preserving and making sure it stayed open and clear and flowing, right, there was no life for the town. The town would die. It would become a ghost town. And then he was saying that even later, they started building the churches right next to the well. Mm. And so there's just this whole depth where I'm just seeing that is the desire of my heart. I desire to create wellness.
Can I just share something really quick that's coming up for me?
Yeah.
So I'll just be totally honest here. So the reason why we're moving is because I want a well.
No way. I'm so coming.
Yes, you are, because my heart desires a well, and I want that security and that stability of having a well. And so we're going to be moving to a property that has a well. And it's funny because it just gives me like this peace, like there's uncertain times, there's, just life is what it is in these, these days. And so by having a well, I'm like giving myself and my family and my friends like this abundance piece, right? Mm-hmm. It's an acreage of water. Like that's a lot of water,
wow.
And it's never runs dry. Like it is there. Like it's been there for 30 years. It's going to keep going. So that's funny that you are drawn to that, because so am I. And I think that in the physical sense as well as in the spiritual sense, that is the goal, is that you have that wellspring, Yeah. I love that.
Well, and even with my health, I was thinking, this is such a better definition for me than just health has been, because health isn't as motivating because it's kind of fleeting and, I feel good today. But having wellness, like health being that well of life and energy and wellness that you can draw from continually every day as you need to, it just helped me. It's so much more motivating,
I love that for you. I love that. And also that stability too. Like it's not just I'm getting through the season by doing a few, supplements.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like I have reserves. I have this strength in me.
Yes. Yeah. That you can, it's like instead of just living paycheck to paycheck financially or with your health, it's like, let's store up and let's not use absolutely everything that comes in and consume it. Let's put some aside so that we're building a well as well.
I love that.
So, well, cool. This has been such a fun discussion. It always is, to talk about words of the year. We'd love to hear more about your words and intentions.
Before we like move on though, like I think we should just like maybe 3 tips of like, hey, here's things that would help us all to integrate, right?
Yeah, or even to find. Did you want to talk about finding your word too?
Oh, well, yeah, if you want to.
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess we've thrown out a couple of ideas. I could touch on that, and you touch on what you're feeling inspired to, which I'm loving that you brought that up. So, yeah, so as far as finding your word, I think some of the ways that we've definitely mentioned that you could lean into more is what Kelly mentioned with prayer and with pondering, with journaling. I feel like that when I first started this practice, it was a very brain kind of process where I was like, what word do I want? It's kind of me trying to control the future a little bit. But as I've surrendered more and more, it's like, what's the word that's actually singing to my soul that kind of embodies what I'm yearning for, or what I want to stay anchored to? So I like thinking of these words as not just, let's cast a little spell for the year to be what we want. And, it's not that. I think it's so much more of an anchor. Like, where am I meant to go this year? What if I stayed anchored to this one intention? What would be my North Star, my guiding light? throughout whatever it is that I'm working on.
I love that. I also love the practice of receiving it like a gift.
Oh, yeah.
Because when we allow it to become that for us, it's so endearing. It's so sweet, And so I think that's why I become more excited as I learn more about it, because it has these different aspects of it that I didn't initially consider,
Yeah.
and that's where the gift is. And that's why it's so fun to talk about it, right? Like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
so like, this is what I think and this is what I'm intending, but then it takes this whole other direction, and that's why it's yummy and delicious to our soul,
Yeah. And so much more meaningful than just a resolution or a goal. I mean, we do have goals. Kelly and I are both goal-oriented people. And so it's not about, having that shift. For example, I would love to shed some weight this year and tighten up some muscles and just feel leaner and stronger. But instead of anchoring that goal to I'm going to shed 20 pounds. Instead, if my intention is wellness, then I'm going to create that in a way that really supports my life and a long-term aspect. I'm going to get it the right way. Same with my financial goals. I have great big business goals, but if I'm creating them anchored to a space of wellness, then I'm going to be watching my businesses, not only that they're producing really big, but they're also supported and strong and have a wealth of reserve to draw from, like we were
And
describing.
you also really value the wellness of your staff and the wellness of all people that you interact with, and so you're mindful of what you're asking them to do. And is it going to create more wellness for them? Is it going to be liberating for them? Is it going to be joyful? And wellness feels nurturing and nourishing. It's not depleting in any way. So it's a heck yes, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then with your business goals and your health, and how are you seeing praise kind of lining up to support that?
Well, I just feel like if we're always giving credit to God, then it's like that's just the highest way of life. And so whenever I achieve a goal or something happens that is wonderful, I'm always giving him credit, but can I also give him credit in the other things? So recently, this is kind of an interesting consideration is, when people have life challenges, we can pray for them, we can strengthen them, we can be there for them. However, sometimes we can consider that this is the very thing they have been praying for, right? They have been praying for this life opportunity to grow. And so sometimes like we should praise that like the challenges have come, because now we can renew our experience or deepen our awareness of God's influence in our life,
Yeah.
And for years and years and years, I wanted to learn how to love unconditionally. And God gave me a son. It's awesome. He gave me a son, and it's so great because his high school years, his junior high school years were very amazing growth opportunities. And I had love for 2 of those 6 years as my word. And then this last year was his senior year of high school. That was by far one of my biggest stretching, growing years as a parent. And we got through it. And not only did we get through it, we thrived in the challenges of it. And we got the right coach, we got the right guidance. We praised God that he was learning, that we were learning, and we became a stronger family through that. And also my relationship with him is now sweeter than it could have been. Like we have bonds through these life challenges and experiences, and he's learned so much and we've learned so much, but he knows like we love him no matter what, we love him no matter what. And he tested that limit over and over and over. And so it was really cool to say, thank you, God, for giving us this humility, as like, we don't know anything. We don't know how to raise him, like teach us, like, thank you for this, because we were guided into certain ways of parenting or programs or, coaching things that we wouldn't have otherwise have done. And we're all better off. And I think that, to answer you, like, just praising in the good, the challenge, all of it, like, that's what it is. And in business relationships, in the blessings. And, sometimes we publicly say, I'm so grateful for God because he's giving me this gift and this award and like, all these,
Yeah.
like, no, thank you, God, that you made me broke, Thank you, God, that you took my heart and broke it, thank you, because now I have a different life, than I had before. So
Wow.
there you go.
I love it.
Long answer.
I love it. This has been such a juicy conversation. Do you want to share your thoughts about how to integrate in closing?
Well, I think you just kind of got to let go a little bit. Like, do your part of whatever you need to learn about your word and keep asking, like, what else do you want to teach me? And what resources can I learn about this? And who could be a mentor in this, living or dead? Is there any books I can learn about it? Is there any special people that I can connect with?
Yeah.
And then at that point, I think you can set some goals around it, but I think it's much more just let's see what happens kind of thing. I mean, don't you?
Oh yeah.
I don't think you have to like, I gotta praise again. It's like, no, it's like, I want to just keep that mindset of praise. And so I think it's first and foremost a mindset, and then just let it be what it's going to be, and don't wrestle with it too much, What do you?
I think in the beginning of this practice, I think one of my words was abundance or something. And so then I was like mad during half of the year and wanted to change my word and felt like I had failed at it because financially we were not doing great, And so I look back now and I'm like, oh, I was way too hard on myself. I was learning the lesson. I was showing up for it. And it was planting the seeds of what has grown now. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is just to never take your word at face value and to always say, what more and what more is this trying to teach me? And does this mean something different than I thought it meant? What is it meant to mean for me in my life? How does this really apply?
Yeah. And I think it's also good to ask other people, what does this word mean to you? Because they might give you some insights that you hadn't considered. And I, a few months ago, I forgot what my word even was. And I was like, I'll just pick the word surrender. And because surrender kind of was a good summary of how of my year went. But then a friend reminded me, no, your word was move. And I was so glad that I came back to the original word, because then I saw the gifts in it and the gems in it. And not to say that if you're surrendered, you're not moving, because I was surrendered. And so I was able to go with the flow a little bit and just hold on. But remembering the gifts of the word and the lessons it has to teach you is truly a beautiful process. Like, I think that's why we love to have this conversation every year. Like, what did you learn and what's ahead? Because we are putting closure on the year, and then we're opening the new chapter. And so as each of you do that, maybe have a little discussion with some friends like we're having, and sharing your comments, but like really having some time with it is beautiful. And I think that we all deserve to get all the juiciness out of it, right? Like, what else did I learn from that? And what can I continue to learn from it? And then as I move forward, here I am. So, but I think it's good.
Good. So good. And one other super simple way that you can integrate it this year, if you're listening to this within the first couple weeks of January 2019, every year we have a fun tradition of, if you go to the Soulful Business and Branding Facebook group and type in your word for the post that says, what is your 2019 word? Then my team will actually create some free art for you with your word in it. And this year we've really done a fun thing. We've sized all of the art so it's a perfect iPhone or smartphone background, or it works great for you to declare it. You can share it in your Instagram or Facebook stories. It's that perfect sizing for that as well. So a really profound part of your practice, come and join us there. It's just facebook.com/soulful business. We'd love to see you in there and have this conversation continue. Thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us for this call today. It's always such a pleasure.
Oh, we had a good time. And it's just fun to, just share, right? Like, I think like all of us want to share. And so if anybody wants to continue this conversation in the Facebook group, I think that's a great place to do it. And I'd love to hear more about your journeys and your experiences and your life lessons, because I think one of the things that's really fun with the words is that we can't choose, more than one, really. And so we can layer the lessons of other people and be like, okay, I claim that too. And I want to claim that. And I want to expand in that way. And so when you do share, it does bless other people. And I hope that you take the time to do that. So thanks.
Me too. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. So grateful for you and cheering you on in having an amazing 2019. It's going to be such a beautiful year. Show up for the joy, show up for the life and the lessons and all of that good, juicy magic in between. We're just sending you lots of love and cheering you on in whatever your path brings you.
Yay.
Talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Joyful Living. If you haven't already done so, be sure to email me at quinn@joyfullivingmovement.com so I can send you our yummy Joyful Living welcome package filled with lots of awesomeness, including access to our private Joyful Living network. I read every email from my listeners and would love to hear from you. Also, be sure to leave a review on iTunes, and most importantly, have a joy-filled day.